From needing to fight the problem child to redeem himself, to potentially putting on one of the highest-rated matchups in boxing history, here's why Conor McGregor needs to fight Jake Paul. Jake Paul and Conor McGregor have been going at each other for quite some time now, but things escalated when McGregor called Jake a donkey. Honestly though, Jake Paul didn't seem too bothered by it. In fact, he found it pretty amusing. During an appearance on his brother, Logan Paul's podcast, Impulsive, Jake took the opportunity to respond to McGregor's comment, and he made it clear that he believes he could beat McGregor in a boxing match any day. He even went a step further and said that he would knock out Nate Diaz, something McGregor couldn't do. He's really not holding back, is he? According to Jake, a potential fight between him and McGregor would be a huge event in the world of combat sports. He's not wrong there. People would definitely tune in to see these two go head-to-head. Now, it's worth mentioning that Jake suffered his first loss in a split decision against Tommy Fury in 2023, but he's gunning on making a comeback against none other than Nate Diaz. If he manages to come out on top in that bout, he'd be one step closer to securing that super fight with McGregor. Of course, that's assuming if the UFC is willing to let McGregor step into the boxing ring again. Ironically enough, Conor does not want to fight Jake Paul. Jake has been pretty vocal about his desire to step into the ring with McGregor, but it seems like the former UFC champ isn't exactly jumping at the opportunity. During an interview with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, Jake restated his intentions to eventually face McGregor, but the Irishman didn't waste any time dismissing him on Twitter, calling him a flop and a nobody. Though Jake didn't really care for it, he believes that a fight with McGregor is bound to happen, as long as the Irishman gets back into active fighting. According to the cruiserweight boxer, all it'll take is a couple of more wins for him, a reactivated Notorious, and voila, the fight would be on. He sees it as a business move, and hey, who can blame him? Both of them are savvy businessmen, and a fight of this magnitude could potentially rake in a whopping 75 to 100 million. But this was all before Jake lost to Tommy Fury, so who knows what his plans are now. It's been a bit of a rough patch for McGregor lately too. The Irishman had to take an indefinite break since his UFC loss against Dustin Poirier in July 2021. The fight ended with a TKO because of a doctor's stoppage after McGregor suffered a broken ankle. But here's the thing, McGregor is already one of the highest earning athletes out there. He's got various successful ventures beyond fighting, so he's not exactly desperate to get back into the ring. He can afford to be selective with his fights and pick the ones that truly interest him. And right now, it seems like Jake Paul might not be on that list, unless he manages to do something truly attention-grabbing, like offering him a $50 million fight. The younger Paul brother is really going all out to lure McGregor into a fight, and he's got a $50 million offer on the table. He's dead serious about this. In an interview with TMZ Sports, Jake revealed that McGregor actually took a look at his DM on Instagram. That's progress, right? But the negotiations are still ongoing between the two teams. It seems like Jake is determined to make this fight happen. Back in 2020, Jake called out McGregor in an Instagram video. He straight up accused McGregor of being scared to accept the challenge and claimed that he's dodging him because he doesn't want to lose to a freaking YouTuber. But you have to admit, Paul's got everything McGregor wants. Conor may be younger than Paul's recent opponents, like Silva, Woodley, and Askren, but it's important to note that his best performances were from 2016. Since moving up in weight to 155 pounds, McGregor has experienced more losses than wins. He faced humbling defeats against Floyd Mayweather in boxing and Khabib Nurmagomedov in MMA. Nowadays, it seems like he would only be competitive against a select few lightweight fighters in the UFC's top 15 rankings. On the other hand, Paul is riding a wave of good form. Sure, he did just lose against Tommy Fury, but he's still a pretty good opponent for McGregor, especially considering Conor's performance hasn't really been that great either. In his first bout against Woodley, Paul showed solid skill. According to CompuBox data from Insider in 2021, he landed 71 shots out of 207 attempted with an accuracy rate of 34.3%. Out of those, 36 were jabs and 35 were power punches. In his fight against Silva, who is considered a more accomplished striker than Woodley, Paul landed 83 shots out of 336 attempted. The accuracy rate was slightly lower at 24.7%, with 32 jabs landed and 51 power punches finding their mark. These statistics show that Paul is making progress and could possibly be a great fight for Conor. Even though McGregor doesn't seem too eager to fight Jake, he's not ruling out the possibility. So, during a quick-fire interview, Conor McGregor had a chance to weigh in on the possibility of fighting internet sensation Jake Paul. McGregor has always had a return to boxing on his radar, and it seems like it might happen sooner rather than later. And guess guess who keeps popping up in conversations about his boxing comeback? Yep, Jake Paul. When asked about the potential fight with the former Disney star, the Irishman gave a somewhat open-ended response. He said, "Nah, who knows? Never say never." Well, that doesn't exactly sound like a definite no, does it? McGregor seems to be leaving the door slightly ajar for a possible clash with Jake Paul. The interviewer also inquired whether McGregor had watched Paul's second bout against Tyron Woodley and what he thought of it. McGregor's answer was pretty straightforward. He admitted that he hadn't actually watched the fight, but had caught some glimpses of it online. It seems like he didn't have too much interest in that particular matchup, as he mentioned it only did a couple of thousand buys. As we know, McGregor has been out of action since that gruesome leg break during his third fight with Dustin Poirier, but he's been vocal about his desire to make a comeback and hopes to step into the ring at least once in 2023. So, it's safe to say that McGregor has boxing on his mind and is looking for the right opportunity to make a splash. While a fight between McGregor and Paul may not seem very likely at the moment, who knows what the future holds. If Jake can keep building his name and reputation, we might just see a blockbuster boxing event headlined by these two controversial figures. Not to mention, fans would have loved to see a fight between these two. Whether you love them or not, Conor McGregor and Jake Paul definitely bring in the clicks, views, and publicity in any shape or form. They have become major draws in the combat sports world, attracting attention from fans all over. Conor McGregor has been a huge moneymaker for the UFC, no doubt about it. His UFC lightweight championship bout against Khabib holds the record for the most watched event in the promotion's history. And let's not forget his foray into professional boxing, where his debut against the undefeated legend Floyd Mayweather pulled in a whopping 4.3 million pay-per-view buys. McGregor's star power extends well beyond the octagon. On the other side of the spectrum, we have Jake Paul, who has repeatedly proven that his YouTube fame seamlessly transitions into the boxing ring. Every time he steps into that squared circle, a significant portion of his 20.3 million subscribers eagerly tunes in. Take, for example, his undercard fight against Nate Robinson, which contributed to the Mike Tyson vs. Roy Jones Jr. event, bringing in a whopping 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. It's clear that Paul's online following is translating into substantial viewership. With such massive fan bases, it's no surprise that both McGregor and Paul are lucrative attractions. Their fights have the potential to generate millions of dollars in revenue for themselves and their promoters. And let's face it, it's hard to imagine either of them turning down such an opportunity. Money talks and the financial incentives of a matchup between these two would be hard to resist. Plus, the Disney star still has a lot to prove. The fighters he's been going up against weren't nearly as skilled as him. So far, the only real opponent he's had is Tommy Fury, and he lost against him. In a way, even Jake needs this fight to really solidify his name in the world of UFC, because right now, he's just a guy making huge claims with nothing substantial to back it up. If he wins this fight, he'll have just that. So from potentially putting on one of the highest rated matchups in boxing history to needing to fight Jake to redeem his name, that's all I've got today for why Conor McGregor needs to fight Jake Paul.